welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, India has reported as many as 137 cases and counting of coronavirus. There have been 3 deaths also. Well, the problem is very serious. We've had an ICMR briefing that's told us that India is in stage 2, stage 3. How far away is that? How do we deal with the situation? There's been a lot of information overload on coronavirus. Every show talks about it. Here on this show, we're going to be doing 2 things. We're going to try and separate, try and give you the facts, try and break some of the myths that are doing the rounds. And secondly, what do we do next? What is the road ahead? How are we dealing with it well? Is our reaction correct, or are we overreacting? Do we need to panic more? Those are some of the questions that I will be answering. Joining me on is a panel of experts. I have Shailaja Chandra. She's been a secretary in the Ministry of Health and also chief secretary in the Delhi government. We have Dr. Virendra Chauhan. He's an ex-director at the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotech, and he continues to be an emeritus scientist over there. He's focusing on infectious diseases. We have Dr. Swati Maheshwari. She's also an expert on internal medicines, and she's a former senior consultant at the Fortis Hospital. And Dr. Anjali Kotra, she is a disaster management expert. She's the DG at Disaster Safety Center. Ma'am, I'll begin with you first. Our response, how do you see India's response to coronavirus? Are we panicking, or should we be more stringent in some of our measures?
I think India has done what needed to be done well in time. So I would give full marks to the way they contained the arrival of the foreign visitors and Indians coming from countries which have had this outbreak. They started the checking on the bridge of the airplane and through the manifesto identifying the passengers in front and passengers behind the suspect case. They started the kind of follow-up through the Integrated Disease Surveillance Project, which is an all-India project so that you're able to identify and clustering. That was all wonderful. And I think that India could really teach a lesson to other countries how this was done. It was really commendable. But we are now, as you said, getting in from phase 2 into phase 3. This is the phase when central government orders, which emanate from WHO Geneva and which are being followed, will no longer be the benchmark. It has to be a local reaction, a local response. So every state government, every chief minister, every chief secretary, every district magistrate, every CMHO, that is the medical officer at the district level, percolating down has to be on the same wavelength. You can't have a knee-jerk reaction, humne ye kiya, usne kya kiya. There's no harm in having a state policy because this is something which only a state chief minister can order. If he takes interest, definitely things fall into place. This is something which in our system works. But it requires a chief minister to put everything aside and give this the primacy it deserves, because it really means looking into whether you have testing equipment, whether you have roped in the private sector. I've heard that now they're opening it up.
The testing labs.
Testing labs. Now, which ones are you going to consider to be all right? How are you going to link the population with that center? People can't go helter-skelter throughout the city or throughout the district. So therefore, you can use election data, for instance. You know the populations, you know the licensed laboratories, and link up people. Are you going to insist on prescriptions, or are you going to insist on anybody having a cough and cold landing up? These are questions which immediately the state has to take charge of. And as I keep saying, we are really administering populations of Italy, France and Germany. When you talk of Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu, which is the size of France, and Germany, which is the size of Bihar.
So and you're not even going to Uttar Pradesh.
Uttar Pradesh is the size of Brazil. Okay. So, I mean, so when you have this kind of a phenomena, what do you need? If really it has reached an emergency level, you have the containment of people coming from outside, even Indian passport holders, which is a good thing. But if that person has gone into the community, he's gone to Bangalore, and the woman has gone to Agra, which we have seen happening, how do you nab them and all the people, the ripples of people around them who have come into contact with this person? Now, there I would say that the state has the machinery. They've been doing it for polio, they've been doing it for HIV/AIDS, they've been doing it for malaria. This is different. This is a virus which is not mosquito borne. It is borne by just transmission through the air. So there it is possible to have a system whereby any compact area, any high density area, you have randomized sampling done just to know what is happening in that community. That is necessary.
Okay.
When you talk about, for instance, the district magistrates and the CMHOs, these are and the municipal commissioners, these are the three key players at the Indian level who can make things happen, and you need your best officers put here.
Okay.
Because they must be efficient and they must be result oriented. They can't say कि मेरे पास ये नहीं आया, वो letter नहीं आया, वो चिट्ठी नहीं आई. It has to be hands on.
I think very fantastic point that ma'am has made, because at present also right now we have a lot of states who have still not imposed this lockdown. We still have states in India and we still are allowing interstate movement. So there's so much of interstate movement happening, yet some states are locked down and some states are still not locked down. I think we are on a very...
policy has not yet come, that is the other problem.
Yeah.
Dr. Johan, your first
So much what my colleague Shalja has said, I would agree with, but I will be a bit uncomfortable if different narratives float from different parts of the country. I think the dealing with the virus cannot be in different ways. Dealing with the virus has to be generalized. Whether how bureaucracy or how the machinery works, that's a matter of details. But I think, like in many other countries, like Boris Johnson is on television, everybody, CDC is on television. I think there has to be very good quality scientific based information, not from many noises, not from many channels. I think it has to be centralized. Operationally, states have to take charge of that. I totally agree with Shanja. But really, when we deal with a virus like this, what does science tell you? I'll take very small time in this, when it's originated in China, for about 20 days, even Chinese did not know they had the new virus at their hand. So they declared on 31st of December that we have a new virus. Within days, within a couple of days, they had to sequence the whole genome of it. And the genome was shared by everybody. The moment genome was shared, there was a reason to believe that everybody can prepare their diagnostic kit. Diagnostic kit cannot be prepared unless you know the genome. The day we knew it's a different virus, we knew we were going to look at a very troublesome enemy. And since it spreaded very fast, I would say at the outset, I think we know a lot about this virus, but I must admit we do not know a hell of a lot about this virus. And the science has moved extremely fast. If I get another comment the second time to me, I'll tell you where the science is vis-a-vis drug, vis-a-vis vaccines.
Why tell us that. That's...
So I can tell you right away, and I think that I'll just take the science part of it. So we have the genome. There are many genomes of this virus have been sequenced in different countries from different isolate. What we do know now in science, and very briefly I'll tell you, we know roughly, not exactly why, but there are two mutations in this virus which makes it much more easy to enter our cell system. In that sense, it's different from SARS and MERS. And SARS, of course, spread it, but did not spread this fast. And these papers are out. I think it's a public knowledge in science that there are two mutations. There are two receptors in our cell which aid virus entry. All viruses do not multiply on their own. No virus ever can multiply. It doesn't. It has the genetic material. It uses your cell system. So in this case, since it can enter many cells, not only just the nasal pathway, other cells also, so it can be devastating in that. So that much we know. When you come to drugs, there's a lot in the media that you can take this drug, that the front page news that we can take anti-HIV drugs. There's no proof that they work, that they can assist, because HIV also you're trying to kill a virus, which is different than this. It may or may not, unless you do very large controlled trials, you would not know they help or not. But desperate situations require desperate solutions. There's no question about it. I'll give you another example of desperate situation. Vaccines against viruses of this kind are not difficult to make. This is absolutely true. We have a structure of this virus known to us. A lot of people have described the structure as the material inside, the genetic material inside, coated by a protein that produced by virus itself, and they come out, it's called spike protein. So if you see a picture under electron microscope, you'll see a score and the spikes come out. Virus uses these spikes to enter our cell. So spikes find receptor on our cell. So if you have antibodies against the spike protein or any immunological intervention of the spike protein, then you have a basis for immunological intervention. Now, science has moved very fast, not for only this virus, for all viruses, that we know the structure of the protein, we know the sequence of the protein, we can make RNAs, we can make DNA vaccines, we can make protein vaccines. As I speak with you, there are at least about 20 vaccines against coronavirus, which are in preparation. Yesterday, 45 volunteers in Seattle have been immunized with the first experimental vaccine. Why did I say unprecedented situation required? This vaccine has not gone under any safety trial in animals. Normally, vaccine will take 3-4 years, 3-4 years of toxicity, then approval. But this is a situation which scientists or everybody dealing. So 45 young individual health users have already been immunized yesterday. And I dare say we will see a flush of vaccines going through phase 1 trial. Whether they produce antibodies sufficient enough to neutralize virus, we'll soon find out. And soon will not be less than 50 days or 60 days. You can't have immune responses tomorrow.
Yes, 50 days.
So I think the next 1 year, you could argue by that time maybe the virus will disappear, maybe it will disappear, maybe it won't. But the science allows. So my last comment is, one of my students was asking me, sir, in the time of this artificial intelligence with such molecular biology, gene editing, we are still struggling with a tiny little fellow which has destroyed all economy. I think these kind of situation humbles man.
The reality
I think
check.
the man should be little bit humble vis-a-vis viruses, bacteria, fungus. There are a whole lot of them outside there.
Okay.
Quite a
As
compassionate
a doctor,
statement,
how are you seeing are you getting a lot of cases, a lot of people, panic cases coming up, or do you think the public is handling it in a slightly mature manner?
No, definitely panic is there, considering, because right now because in any case we are going through that seasonal flu time period in India
तो
as
उसमें
well.
भी confused हो गया.
Yes, exactly. And secondly, whoever is getting this, even a bit of cough, fever or cold or anything, then everybody is panicking, thinking, could it be corona? Is it corona? So, but then I would definitely say that with time, the level of awareness has definitely gone up with the kind of measures that have been taken to, propagate information about coronavirus. I definitely see now level of awareness has gone up, because I do take a lot of questions on the media as well, and the kind of questions that were coming on day one to the questions that are coming in today, I do see a change now in the kind of questions that they're asking. Initially, everybody would ask, is it going around in air? If I touch this, would I get it? If I have cold, am I suffering from corona? Now people have shifted to questions like, if I have a baby in house, what should I be doing? If I have a pregnant female in house, what should I be doing? If I have people more than 65 years in house, what should I be doing? So the level of awareness definitely has gone up. But then yes, considering as more information trickles in about the deaths that are happening in different countries, and the levels are rising, even if they are not rising in India, the level of rise in the other countries has a psychological effect in our country as well. And when people say, okay, it's happening there, not yet in India, but are we going to see this in India as well?
What are the most common questions people ask you in terms of medication?
So most of the people still ask, do we have a medicine for this? Do we have a vaccine for this? What kind of treatment
What
are
do you advise
giving?
them?
So what the studies have shown and what we have seen till now is that 85% of the people in the world have seen a very mild disease, and half of them have been treated at home, not even in the hospital, and they've all recovered with a symptomatic treatment. So that is the silver lining that we have at present, that the mortality rate with this is very less, though it is very virulent. So it keeps on infecting it's like a chain reaction that goes on. But definitely the good part is that the mortality rate is low, very low, and specifically into a certain kind of category of people and all and everything. And the children have been spared, which I think has been a very good thing, that, the panic.
That's a question I'll ask you in a bit
Yes,
about
absolutely.
the immunity. But quickly, your first thoughts on the way we are handling it, since, you are in the business of disaster management.
So as a disaster management person, I would say the first good thing that happened in our country was that it was declared as a national disaster by the central leadership. And the fact that our Prime Minister, Modi ji, is very keenly involved with this. He is not only monitoring it and, trying to get international cooperation, everything, all the efforts that he's doing. even the WHO head.
But is it
in
enough,
India,
or should we do more? Or you think, schools being shut down, and also explain this thing that till March 31st we are doing. Are we taking stock, and then these could be extended to maybe April?
Yeah, I think that review is happening on a daily basis in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. But the fact is that most of the things that we are seeing that is happening very good is only at the central level. Whether it is the Indian Council of Medical Research, Professor Balram Bhargav very proactively, taking all the required steps, the National Center for Communicable Diseases, they are doing commendable job. But there is a gap which I see at the state government level. We are not finding any institutions of, whether medical or otherwise, even disaster containment agencies, which are proactively. In fact, most of them don't even have a disaster management plan for biological disasters, because this is a biological disaster. In fact, for none of the disasters, as we say, chemical, biological or radiological, which are, very, I would say, each event can be very disastrous. They don't even have a plan.
Compare this to the way we handle SARS.
See, again, this disaster is much beyond SARS. Because the transmission is very fast, and here even the surveillance and all that, the steps that have been taken, they seem to be not enough still. You see, because in our country there is a deficiency in the surveillance. We have not actually tested so many people. Even the protocol being followed is only for people who have come from foreign countries, affected countries, or for a person who is living with an infected person. So that is much less. We need more testing. The protocol should change.
That's what both of you agree on, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise it will multiply further.
Okay. We've of course had quarantine centers. We've also said, given a list of people who need to be quarantined, who's showing symptoms or who just travel from abroad and come. So are you happy with this response, or you think it needs to be further streamlined?
I think it will have to be further streamlined, because it's like, in the old days you had cholera. It's an infectious disease under the Municipal Act. And it is the duty of the municipal commissioner to see that there are isolation facilities. Now, here, is it going to be a top-down approach? Is the municipal corporation going to do this? I saw some tweets from municipal commissioners saying, "Ye kaam hamara nahi hai. This is being handled by health." This is something which is very problematic. I think you need a protocol down to every district. Who is in charge of identifying isolation and quarantine centers? What is the quality of those supposed to be? Are they paid or they are unpaid? If they are unpaid, then government has to have a modicum of standard. If it is paid, then you have to have modicum of standard and tell people you pay and go there if you don't want to be in a government facility. That is the first. Second thing I think is that when you start opening it to private sector, to do the testing, because you will have to go to the private sector. There's no way government can do it. And private sector has enough facilities. But today the time taken, Dr. Chauhan will definitely say it takes 32 hours or something. Maybe it takes more, maybe it takes a little less. But that's a very long time. By that time, are you going to keep him in isolation or are you going to send him home? So therefore, the question arises that if you are able to reduce the testing time, there are people going around saying it is possible to reduce the testing time. We need people of eminence who have the last word on the subject. This is fine. Take it on. I don't know who's doing that. And the third thing is about the states. I mean, one would expect that there would be a kind of a protocol for every state without fail to follow. It's not, yes, I agree totally with Professor Chauhan. The operational part can be left to the district magistrates to do whatever innovations they want to, whatever the public health machinery wants to. But there has to be a straight protocol. How will you report? How often will you report prevalence and incidence data? If you don't have prevalence and incidence data, you cannot forecast. So you need that. In plague, we used to do it. We had no email in those days. By fax, the messages used to come by 5 o'clock saying how many new cases, how many new deaths. And it was possible to say, to forecast. Of course, it was much simpler. You had antibiotics, sure shot, you might say, treatment, and you could contain it. I'm not drawing a parallel. This is hugely serious. I'm not deprecating efforts, but I'm only saying that unless the last man at the level of a tehsildar knows what is to be done, it will not fall into place just through awareness. There has to be a protocol for how will you identify, how will you send for testing. At the, you might say, look at India, I'll just take a minute. India is 67% still rural. 640,000 villages are your, your constituency. You have only 37% in the urban areas. Now, are you going to treat the urban areas as only Delhi, Mumbai, Lucknow? No, you will have to go down to the class 2 and the class 3 cities.
So
Now,
which is where
over
you
there,
need the DM and the
you
this
need
and that.
the DM, you need the municipal commissioner. They must all be talking exactly the same language. Then only it will fall in.
And what ma'am is saying will bring a lot of accountability into the whole system, and I think that's very essential right
Needed,
now.
yeah. A little more on the science of the, if you can educate us a bit more. We are saying, in the infectious disease, how infectious is it? Can you educate us a bit? Should we?
No, very quickly, the comment, first of all, what Shailja said, I totally agree with. This is the way it should be operational. Maybe the chief minister's meetings on every second day, what's happening, it will change from day to day.
But
There's
it
no
needs a
question.
central person to take.
And we can't have a policy today because this is a moving target. This will just move on, and we need to respond to this unknown enemy, a big, huge enemy. So policy might change, and one should not worry about it because from day, depending on what load you have. But I'll just very quickly go. I think government response has not been panicky. It has been very measured. I think they've done very well in telling what minimally we should do. I think everybody knows, all kids know. So that has worked very, very well for India. Very earlier on, we locked up, we got our infected people from China, infected from Iran. This is outstanding achievement, I would say. Much needs to be done. Have we seen the peak or not? I dare say probably not. The peak is yet to come. But I'll just point this out to you. When Wuhan was closed, there were a lot of reaction. It should not have been closed internationally. Today, Wuhan is reporting just one case. Yesterday, 24 hours, Wuhan. So if you look at the what Chinese experience has been very high peak, but it doesn't take more than 2 months to really bring it down. By simply things which government is already saying. Isolate, quarantine, don't go to shopping, social distancing. So I don't think, and a lot of infections have been fought without drugs and without vaccines. SARS is an example, MERS is an example. There were no drugs, no vaccine, but you were able to fight. So I don't feel really worried, but the system can be very easily overwhelmed if it peaks. And that, I don't know how much we should be prepared, how much we should not be prepared. Only time will tell.
And this,
if the number goes like in Italy or Spain or anywhere, if those are the models, mathematical models, then I think we are in for a spot of trouble. And I think government will respond to it because they have responded very well so far. Going to your question about why Wuhan is not now showing anything, why Korea has calmed down, Singapore has had no cases, Hong Kong is under control, Taiwan, you should have seen much more in Taiwan, only one death. I think this business of herd immunity is a really one. If you get low exposure with a large number of people, then I think you begin to get what we call herd immunity in science.
The UK example.
And UK. So this one, UK really has a measured response. They are not panicking. They say that more people will die. We believe more people will die, but that's the nature of the disease that we have. We can't just wish aisa nahi hoga, waisa hoga, aisa nahi hoga. But I think this herd immunity is a very good idea. Quarantine will be necessary. I think what I really want to put across through this, that a lot of individual responsibility comes.
Yes.
Of course, government has to do, chief minister has to do everything. But our social responsibility as an individual is very important. If you begin to see the 3-4 symptoms that have been advertised, I'm not going to repeat them, then it becomes our responsibility in our own homes, protect our elders from this. Young people in India or elsewhere have a major role to play because they are the ones who will get disease but will not feel very well. They certainly won't pop off from this. Okay. So I think this youth has to take charge, advise everybody. I think the social media is doing no less harm. I think we should calm down on social media. Listen to the basic 4 or 5 things government has already said.
Okay.
Quarantine, if you have symptoms, we should be testing you. Lastly, I think there is a case for large testing. without last testing, you would not know.
Where are the kits?
No, kits are there. See, the Bhargav yesterday said we already have imported 1 million kits. So if you want to do 100,000, especially in hotspots, then we will tell you the process and progress of this virus in India. So far, we have been spared. 147 people, 3 deaths or 5 deaths. I guess it will go up. But I don't think that is any concern for panic if you look elsewhere. I think we are not in very bad shape, but we should be really preparing now.
Would you agree with the last word? Not in bad shape, but we'll be
Because
prepared for worse.
we were talking of uniformity in approach in the various states and all. In fact, there is again a gap in our legal system. The legal framework, the Epidemic Diseases Act, it is of 1897. We are still following it. I think that needs to be repealed, revised, because all the authorities need to be given more powers in case of such a disaster. Whether it is central government, state government, or even down to the district administration level, to intervene. They should have more powers to, quarantine, isolate, even to forcibly collect samples from, the suspected cases. And first thing is that, I think legal. And then, of course, I talked of the policies that, again, are not existing and which need to be strengthened, because now these re-emerging diseases, I think, so many in the last few decades now. And it's high time we should gear up. Then another fact very important is the individual level. As you said, as a disaster management person, I said no disaster can be managed till the community themselves are geared up for it. And for that, you are saying awareness, but I, as an NGO in a Center for Disaster Risk and Safety, we go and train people for safety measures for all other disasters. And when we are doing for coronavirus, we are saying nothing is being done at the individuals, normal people level and families. You ask them, what are you doing? Nothing.
So you want RWAs to get involved? You want
RWAs have been requested, but again they are showing, that we have no resources. Give us resources and all. So I think it's not RWAs only. I think all agencies first need to involve the community, and for that awareness, sensitization. They are not sensitized enough. They're not understanding the risks. They are thinking it's just, like for all other disasters, they think it will not happen to me. And, even hygiene, even basic measures, they're not following. It is just in their brain.
So how do you do that? How do you bring it to implementation at a local level, individual, family level?
We need to sensitize them. All this data, they need to
How
be
do you do
explained,
that?
how it can really affect them. I was when answering questions, people are like, ki nahi, hame nahi hoga. We've handled all other bimariyan. They're not realizing this is different.
Yeah, that is what I also have. We handle dengue, whatever. Every year we get it. हम तो वो handle करते हैं. So what is this? So this whole.
But it was a learning process.
Dengue needs a mosquito to spread. This fellow doesn't need any mosquito.
Exactly.
Please tell whoever said dengue or whoever says about malaria, but this is like tuberculosis.
It's a different enemy altogether.
So
Yes.
this is an unknown. This is
level of tuberculosis.
Well, actually, this one spreads faster.
Oh,
than
yes.
It's even
Much
more
faster.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Much more,
tuberculosis
much
still is, yes.
So there is no vector
a very
in this
contained
case.
disease for that
And
matter.
because this is an epidemic, a pandemic, it needs a whole of society
true
approach. As the WHO head has also mentioned, a whole of society needs. It's not just the health.
So what can be done? I think the answer is
and the health
in your own
facilities.
home, that you yourself have to be more responsible, do what you can, read up more, but also be more aware. Don't think कि मुझे नहीं होगा, because that's really not the right answer. But that's it for now.
Younger people have to take a stake in it.
And I
more
think somewhere or the
responsible
other,
standard.
Section 144 needs to be brought in now, I think.
It has been brought in, but
yeah,
has to
but
be
it,
imposed
yes,
more strictly.
yes, exactly.
Well, that's it from now. Thank you for watching this show. We'll see you again same time next week.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.